Having been in the construction and real estate development industry for just over 20 years, one thing that I often see contractors struggling with is their ability to consistently win new construction jobs despite bidding on dozens of opportunities every month. Now, according to government statistics, most contractors secure anywhere between 30 to 39% of jobs that they bid on. But unfortunately, 30% of contractors are winning less than 15% of jobs that they bid on. So, how can you improve your chances of winning new construction bids and become one of the top 5% of contractors who are securing anywhere between 80 to 90% of jobs that they bid on? So, in today's video, I'm going to talk about the top 5 techniques that I've helped my clients to implement that are helping them to secure between 8 to 9 jobs for every 10 jobs that they bid on. My name is Aaron. I'm a chartered quantity surveyor and owner of Hayden Construction Services, a management consultant to the real estate development and construction sector, where I help my clients scale their businesses, secure larger projects, and make more profit. And so without further ado, let's get into the video. Now, the first thing that we need to focus on is pricing the job right. Now, I know that this is a fine balancing act because if you price the job too high, there's a chance that your client is going to push back and discredit you from the tender process. But if you bid it too low, that comes with its own risks, mainly due to the fact that you could end up securing the project but losing money on the job because you haven't built in enough risk contingency or priced the job adequately to cover all of the construction elements. So you could end up actually losing money on the project, which is not where you want to be. And so this is where we have to think about pricing the job right. In my experience, representing both property development clients and also my contractor clients, I can honestly say that it's much better to start in a higher position when it comes to pricing a job and then negotiate the price downwards with your client where need be. It's a lot more difficult if it's the other way around. Say, for example, you put in a low bid for the job, but then you end up negotiating with the client and that price gradually begins to creep upwards. It's going to frustrate the client. It's not going to look good for you. It's going to make you look unprofessional. And so it's far better to price a job, ensuring that you have picked up all of the relevant scope and specification items and allowing for an adequate amount of risk contingency and profit within your job, and then negotiating that price downwards. And what that signals to the client is that you're happy to work with them in meeting their budget goals. It's much better for you to come in with a firm price and then look to negotiate that price downwards. What you also want to do is ensure that you have included plenty of clarification notes as part of your bid submission. And your clarification notes essentially tell your customer how you've gone about pricing the job. If there's anything that you haven't priced because you believe that it's better positioned with the client or with another contractor, then make sure you clarify that within your clarification notes. Also clarify any potential scope gaps or any assumptions that you've had to make regarding specifications or scope items. So always make sure that you include as part of your pricing clarification notes that tell the client how you have arrived at that price. And this leads me on to my second point. Always price the scope and specifications. Now, your client will issue you a full tender pack to be priced. Within that tender pack, you will have the scope of works and the specifications. Now, as contractors, we're in a much better position than what the client is to understand value for money when it comes to delivering a project. And although you may feel that you can price the job cheaper by pricing an alternative specification, I would highly recommend that you resist doing that because you run the risk of your bid being non-compliant. And so if your client has issued specifications for you to price and you fail to price those specifications and you submit your bid having priced an alternative spec, the client is well within their rights to disregard you from the tender process because it means that your bid is non-compliant. Now that's not where you want to be at all. Imagine you've just spent a lot of time and effort pricing a job. You believe that your price is competitive. You think that you stand a chance of winning the job, only to be told that you have been removed from the tender process because your bid is non-compliant. Very frustrating, and it can easily be avoided if you just simply stick to pricing the scope and the specifications. And this is where it's very useful to include clarifications within your bid. And I talked about this in the previous point made earlier. Your clarifications will help your client to understand what it is that you've priced. And so if there are any scope gaps, or if the client has failed to detail the specifications needed, then this is where the clarification notes come into play, because it helps you to tell the story behind your bid and why you have priced certain specifications and what exactly you have made allowances for in the absence of the information that should have been provided by the client. The third point that I want to make is to submit your bid on time. Now, I've seen so many contractors fail to secure job opportunities simply because they haven't submitted their bid on time. Within the bid submission that would have been issued to you by your client, there's normally a cut-off date for which you have to return your bid by. And if you fail to meet that date, you could end up being disqualified from the bid process. Now, this is something that can be easily avoided if you simply submit your bid on or before the bid deadline. Now, I understand that we're all busy as construction entrepreneurs. You're probably pricing 5, 10, 15 opportunities every month, and it's very difficult to keep on top of deadlines. And so if you do feel yourself being unable to meet a specific bid deadline, then pick up the phone and have a conversation with the client. Let them know that it could be 2 or 3 days late and ask for an extension. By doing so, you'd be quite surprised at how many construction clients will be willing to allow you to have an extension simply because they're quite keen to receive your bid. They would rather give you that extra time to get the price right so that you can submit your most accurate and competitive bid than have you rushing around trying to meet a bid deadline that you might not be able to make. So pick up the phone, give them a call, and let them know if your bid is going to be late. Another way that you can ensure that you stand a higher chance of submitting your bid on time is by ensuring that you have systems and processes in place to adequately price jobs efficiently, accurately, and this is effectively how I work. I have a system and a process that I use, and I'd be more than happy to share that with you if you want to reach out to me. My website details are in the description, so feel free to reach out. I'd be happy to talk you through my process. But essentially, it all boils down to the automation of the tender process. So I know exactly the types of information that I need from my client for me to get started on the project. And I also have my templates that I use that enable me to accurately estimate and then include that information within my bill of quantity templates. It makes the whole workflow process so much quicker, and I highly recommend that you look into that as well. The fourth point that I want to make is produce a professional bid submission. You'd be surprised at how often I see bids coming in from contractors that just do not look professional. They don't break down the works, they don't explain what has been priced. Oftentimes there's mistakes and errors, and they've missed scope items. And straight away you look at it and it just does not look professional. So being able to stand out from the crowd with a professional looking bid can definitely get you a foot in the door and a seat at the table during the mid-tender interview process. Now, on some occasions, you may be lucky enough that your client may provide you with a bill of quantities for you to include your construction rates against. But if that's not the case, you need to ensure that your bill of quantities looks professional, that it is fully itemized, that it lists out all of the scope items that have been sent out to you as part of the tender pack, and that it clearly sets out the measurements and quantities, and that you have included your rates against those to give you your overall price. And so my bill of quantities, as I mentioned, they're fully itemized. They show all of the scope items, but it follows a set process. It typically follows a process where it follows the sequence of work that is to be carried out on the project. So my first items will include my prelims, my management costs. I then delve into groundworks, excavation, any site clearance that needs to be done, right the way through to external envelope, brick and block work, roofing, windows, right the way through to kitchen finishes, painting and decorating, tiling, flooring, you name it. I make sure that I capture everything within my bill of quantities. And if you think about it like this, if a client is going out to tender for, say, 5 to 10 contractors, the top 5% of contractors that I talked about at the beginning of the video that are winning between 80 to 90% of jobs that they bid on, I can guarantee you that they have professional looking bid submissions and bill of quantities that fully capture the scope of works and itemize in great detail the various different construction elements of that project. Our job as contractors is to make it as easy as possible for the client to make a decision to hire you for the job. And this is why you break down your bid submission in the form of an itemized bill of quantities, because it lets the client know exactly what they're getting if they hire you for the construction project. And point number 5 is to ask for feedback. Now, feedback isn't just something that you ask for at the end of the tender process, when you realize that you haven't won the job, feedback should be something that you continuously ask for throughout the whole tender stage. And so how this typically looks is that you submit your bid on or before the bid deadline, and you give your client a few days or so just to digest the information that you have submitted and to review your bid. And then what you do is you pick up the phone and simply ask for some feedback. Ask for where you stand in relation to your competitors. Ask if there's any additional information that you need to provide them. Do they have any questions about your bid? Give them an opportunity to give you some feedback. The objective is to actually try to get in front of the client and have a sit down with them so you can talk them through your bid. And so by encouraging them to give feedback, you're gradually opening the door for you to ask the question as to whether you can come into their office, sit down with your bid, and actually talk them through how you've got to your numbers. And being able to take on feedback demonstrates to your client that you're in a position where you want to work with them to help them meet their goals and their requirements, and that you're a contractor who's going to be easy to work with. And so that's it for today's video. I really hope you got something useful from this. If you did, please drop a comment below and make sure you like this video. Once again, I'm Aaron, a chartered quantity surveyor and owner of Hayden Construction Services, where I help my clients scale their businesses, win more projects, and make more profit. So feel free to reach out to me for assistance with your projects, link in the description, and I'll see you in the next one.